Hi everybody, welcome to this session. My name is Richard Biss and I'm responsible for the operations here in Europe. We're hoping to have a very interactive session with you today to give you some strong value propositions that we feel that we can have with you on your decisions going forward in the future. I'll be making introductions throughout the sessions today. I'll be your moderator for this session. The first person I'd like to introduce you to is Martin Biggs from Spinnaker. Martin, you want to give a quick brief introductions to yourself?
Sure. I'm the VP and General Manager for Spinnaker Support, based here in the UK. Great to be here today, and I'm looking forward to getting into this.
Thank you, Martin. And during the sessions today, please feel free to offer any questions to us. We'll try to take those on the fly. The presentation format today we'll go through with Martin on the value proposition there. Also, we have Shaun Leach, who's our Director of Engineering here at Incorta. Shaun, do you want to give a quick brief introduction to yourself, please?
Yeah, hi guys. Good to meet you. I look after all the technical aspects for Incorta in the region. My background's all been in big data and analytics, going back to the time when it was actually just database and statistics. So, you know, we joined at the start of the year to build out the opportunity, and hopefully any questions you've got, I should be able to answer today.
Thank you, Shaun. And just the last two introductions, very briefly, they'll be introducing themselves during the presentations today as well. We have Justin Lancaster, who manages our partner programs in the European region. Justin, just a quick introduction to yourself.
Yeah, hi everyone, Justin Lancaster here. As Richard said, I run the Alliance program for Incorta here in EMEA. Nice to meet you all today, and I'll be part of the presentation team.
Thank you, Justin. And last but not least, on our side, we have Gary West, who's our Senior VP for the European region. Gary?
Hi there. Yeah, my name is Gary West. I run the region here in EMEA. Pleased to meet you,
Gary. So I'll hand over to Martin, I believe now, who's going to start with the first presentation that you'll find today. As I say, please feel free to ask us any questions on the fly, and we'll get those answered to you as we can.
Great, thank you, Richard. So as the slide in front of you says, this is all about extending your SAP ECC and Oracle EBS investment. And so Spinnaker Support and Incorta Analytics are presenting together today because we feel we have a very unique combined value proposition. What we're going to do first is talk about the Spinnaker value proposition, which if we spin on to the next 2 pages, you'll see is all about how we release back a whole load of operational expense back to you, the customer, whilst improving your levels of support. We'll then talk about moving back to Richard and the team, how Incorta can deliver a whole load of value out of your existing investment in a different way. And at the end, you'll see as we put that all together, it's pretty unique and pretty exciting. So Spinnaker Support is third-party maintenance, which means we replace the often annual money that you give to Oracle SAP to maintain their software. And in return, we provide you what we would describe as a far better service for a fraction of the price. And we typically save clients 60, 70% of what they're paying today. So clients come to us for 2 reasons. One, they're looking for the financial relief that I've just talked about. Secondly, and probably most importantly, they're looking to sustain and transform their existing environment. What that means is you've made a big investment today on ECC or EBS, and it works. It does exactly what you need, and you do not want to be pushed by the publisher along their roadmap of going into the cloud or paying exorbitant fees to transform to a new platform which doesn't necessarily deliver what you need, or you need just time to think, make the right decision, and then move. And that might be 2, 3, 4, 5 years from now. So there's 2 motivations, really big motivations, to look at what Spinnaker does. And so what we will do is support whatever technology you've got for as long as you want it. So we have clients today, for example, on databases like Oracle 8i, and it works fine, and we're supporting them to the fullest of everything that the client needs across break fix through to security. So if you just look at the right-hand side here, in a nutshell, this is what we do. Today, as I said, you're paying Oracle SAP a fee for them to provide break fix to your environment, and also to give you an upgrade, rights to upgrade to the newest technology. Now, what we will not be able to provide you is that upgrade path to technology that doesn't exist beyond today, but that in part is what Incorta is here to talk about providing you a huge amount of functionality you don't have. What we do is you can still upgrade with Spinnaker Support to versions that are available today. So for example, if you're on a back version of EBS, you can archive all of the licenses and binaries and patches, and then under our support, you can upgrade to those versions. But that will give you a complete capability of where you're going. So in short, we'll do the break fix service. You can come to us for general inquiry about the supported products. So we are essentially your expert at the end of the phone. We will do all the global tax and regulatory compliance updates, which is really important for a huge part of the ECC and EBS environment, especially when it relates to payroll and purchasing and so on. Critically, we do cover security and vulnerability management. So you will not be getting from the Oracle side the patches, the security patches that you get today in the quarterly updates. But we would argue, and I'd love to have the discussion with you and your CISO, that we provide a far more holistic and mature response to security threats in your environment, rather than relying on patches, which, if you've done any of the analysis, they typically will repatch the same CVE quarter on quarter on quarter. Each CVE batch is normally about a third of those items each quarter, which get repatched in later quarters, which is quite shocking. And then finally, the technology advisory services. So if you're looking to migrate to the cloud at some point, or you're looking for advice on certain technologies, that's included in the service, is inherent. And critically as well, for both SAP and EBS, any customization you've made to your environment, which is pretty much what we all do into EBS environments, we will support. Oracle or SAP will typically say, no, mate, you're on your own, but that is fundamental to our solution. The basis of what we do is our people. So we have very experienced senior engineers. And if we go on to the next page, in a nutshell, we have people typically who have 18 years plus experience before they even work with us, and you get a concierge-driven service. So what that means is you don't have to go in for a portal, raise a ticket. Basically, you raise, as soon as you've got an issue, you raise it to us, we answer with a senior experienced engineer who knows your environment within 15 minutes. So no longer are you waiting hours for Oracle to get around to replying, or SAP. We'll be with you within 15 minutes, and then we're working on your issue straight away, whether it's a P1, P2, P3, or P4. So that's end to end. And so briefly in summary, and then I'll hand back to the Incorta guys, we're an established global business. We provide service 24/7, 365 across follow the sun operation centers across the globe. We have over 1,000 clients. This is old data already, because we've had a very successful year this year. And that number is increasing fast. We operate over 104 countries. Our engineers speak over 14 languages that support that. But the piece which really makes me proudest and bears out every time I talk to our customers, and when I'm talking to new prospects who want to have references, our customers are always delighted to speak. We have very, very high customer satisfaction, and that's because what we do is of our very high quality. We do solve customers' client issues. We've got great references where clients will often have a big backlog of tickets with a publisher like Oracle, and very quickly, as the service comes on to us, we'll get that down and fix problems that often the publisher doesn't want to touch because it's complicated and hard. So that's it in a nutshell. We're all about service quality, speed of response. We have the technical know-how, and it's all about driving an issue through to resolution and to keep you satisfied. So that's one part of, we believe, getting as much value out of your current ECC and EBS investment. Now I'll hand back to the Incorta team to talk about how you could do that in a completely different way.
Thanks a lot, Martin. Great proposition around operational efficiency. Yeah, the next few slides, we're going to take you through story for Incorta. We're actually going to show you the products as well, but this is all around our analytics data platform, and it's going to drive operational innovation. So you've heard about efficiency, now operational innovation for SAP and Oracle customers. So going back a few years, our founders were working within some of the largest software organizations, and they got together and formed Incorta because they felt there was a need in the market for a new approach to analytics. Okay, and they had some kind of design goals right at the start, and what Incorta was going to be, whatever it was turned into be, it had to be set up very, very fast, and it had to be implemented fast. So if you're talking in worlds of SAP and Oracle EBS, being implemented in days and weeks is unheard of, right? I mean, these are worlds where they're kind of used to months, if not years, for implementation, right? So, Incorta is disrupting kind of the speed to value in a lot of these customers.
So, as I say, the second section is looking across the the scale that people talk about. When we look at the data warehouses and the data lakes that we have. We have billions and billions and billions of rows and terabytes and terabytes and terabytes of data, but we still need to be able to get sub-second answers for those questions. That's the whole point. If the pandemic's actually taught us anything, it's that waiting for, weeks or months to actually get an answer to a question just isn't acceptable anymore. We need to be able to get those answers very, very quickly. And the other element to this is the ability to iterate. So obviously, we've had some reports come through and actually say, well, I really want to see this. Can I change this to do this? In the old world, it used to take a long while to actually go back to the BI team to actually get this redeveloped and to change and to actually fed back to the business team. So the whole point is to be able to get people to iterate instantly rather than having to wait and actually get instant access to those results.
Everyone, I call this supply chain to analytics, right? Our customers, so this, is kind of a scenario that's playing out all our customers. And within SAP, right, you have a world-class EP systems, okay? But to get that and to do insights and get analytics in the hands of the business so they can do something with, data needs to go on a journey. We need to reshape data, okay? So data typically goes through different transformations, ETL, data modeling, goes into a data warehouse. It typically splits out into data marts, purely so it gets in the hands of the business to get insights, okay? And as SAP is pushing their clients to the cloud, to S/4HANA, getting hands on insights in real time from a myriad of different data sources is a challenge. If you look at just SAP today, they have a plethora of products within the business intelligence suite that you have to use in order to get analytics from their system. So, this is an IT heavy, technology heavy process that take months to get insights, okay? And this is what, again, our founders at the start of Incorta, we were challenging this process for analytics. If you just move on, Shaun. And really what Incorta delivers, it delivers a single platform, okay, which alleviates the need for some of the traditional approaches to analytics, okay? So we open pipelines into your source systems, okay? So, so all this, we bring that in, it's an original format, so you don't need to transform this data. Once it's in our platform, it contains our own visualization. So, we can do a lot of the traditional processes, ETL, modeling, and data warehouse, all in a single platform, okay? And as our customers' environments get more and more complex with regards to on-premise, moving to the cloud, trying to embed other systems within the organization to get the right insights, it's simply adding another data source to a single platform, right? So we are reducing the complexity to analytics. We're putting data, the relevant data, in the hands of the business user faster than they could do in the traditional approach. So it's a new approach to analytics, but it puts the information in the hands of the business users in real time without the complexity that a lot of the typical vendors push towards the customers especially in SAP, HANA, BW. There's a number of technologies that just add complexity and delays to getting insights. If you can move on. And move to the next slide, please. So over the last few years, we have over 100 clients. So just during COVID, I think we've broken through the 100 client barriers. And 70–80% are all Oracle EBS and SAP ECC users as a common data source. Okay, so let me talk about a couple of customers. BROADCOM, are a very large organization, I think 28 billion revenue company. They have grown through acquisition, okay? So they grow through large acquisitions and many acquisitions. The challenge they had was the CFO, when he was acquiring companies, they tried to make these acquired companies conform to a single standard, right? So it was always an IT headache to get them onto the same ERP, the same CRM. Since using Incorta, so the message from the CFO down to the acquired companies, leave your data as is, right? They use Incorta as the lens across their back-end complexity. So they don't have to worry about what version of ECC they're on, right? Or upgrade to S4HANA or EBS. We merge EBS, Oracle, all their data sources into one common platform. So the CFO can get his reports in days. This used to be a weeks to months IT exercise, and now they can get insights in days. Move on, please, Shaun. Another example of a customer of ours using real innovation or Incorta to drive innovation is the largest coffee organization in the world, right? So they had an issue with product waste, okay, across 28,000 stores. If they had food left on the shelf at the end of the day, that was a lot of product waste, right? So, but they had no ability in real time to get the data from their source systems and be able to kind of automate their pricing throughout different parts of the day. So at the end of the day, their shelves are empty. Okay, so Incorta automates this process, as I said, across 28,000 stores, and the net result is a saving of 40% in product waste, right? This was something that was just impossible to do from their back-end complexity, but this is coming out of ERP and a number of data sources. And this is just one of the projects that now this organization uses Incorta for. As you say, we're now a very strategic partner in the BI space for them. Just move on, Shaun. And finally, I won't go through all these logos, but ECC, Oracle E-Business Suite as a data source is at the heart of all our customers. Okay, so we are the points in kind of bold is what I'd like to draw people's attention to here. We get our customers live and receiving value from Incorta very, very quickly. So customers in the SAP and Oracle worlds aren't used to 24, 31 day, 30-day implementations. So what we do at Incorta, we find the use case, we find the challenge, and we deliver value very, very fast. And we have a number of customers across all industries with all SAP or Oracle backend users that we're doing very innovative things with. If you can move forward, Shaun, to the next slide. I'm going to pass back to you now.
Thank you, Justin. So what we're now going to have a look at is the architecture that actually sits behind Incorta. There are four main elements to this. We actually have the data acquisition, we have the data storage, there's data management, and data analytics. For the data acquisition, we reach out to the data sources. So in this case, we're reaching out to ECC or S4 or to EBS. With a normal data source, what we try to do is we try to actually determine what the schema looks like. So we have a look at the primary key and foreign key relationship so we can understand what the joins would be and how these tables actually relate to each other. For ECC and for SAP, for EBS, Salesforce, etc., this is impossible to do because that information is actually built into the application rather than being built into the database itself. So what we've actually done is we've provided some collateral. We've actually built this many times before. As Justin was saying, we have lots of customers that are on EBS or on SAP. So what we did is we actually took the collateral that we built and we've turned that into part of the product, and we call this blueprints. And we'll talk about the blueprints a little bit as we go forward. But it actually takes us a long way towards productionizing the data purely by plugging it in. So what we get from this is the schema itself. We understand the relationship between all the tables and all the data types and everything that's in there. But not only that, we actually give things business-friendly terms as well. We know what these columns are, so therefore we've put those fields in there to make it very easy for you to understand what it is you're looking at. The schemas themselves, as I'll talk about a little bit later, are actually too complex to expect the business user to be able to navigate. So we provide a metadata layer over the top of this. We call this our business schema, which is a lens over the top of the schemas that we actually have. And even these we've actually provided as part of this blueprint toolkit that we provide. So for the different use cases that we build, we actually provide a number of these, and even some visualizations and some dashboards on the top of it. So other things that different customers have found very useful, we've incorporated into the blueprint. Once we've got the data in, once we've got the schema into Incorta, we then pull the data in, and we do this in a parallel fashion, so it's actually very, very quick. And then comes our secret sauce. You can see it in the bottom corner of that first box, which is direct data mapping. This is the thing that makes the difference. When we looked at the diagrams that Justin was going through earlier, the supply chain to data, as it were, the reason why we go through all those stages, we actually analyzed. And that first stage, taking the data out of Incorta, out of the source systems, is actually very important because we don't want to impact the operational systems while they're running. But then what we do want to do is be able to report on that data. The BI tools actually don't really work with the transactional schemas very well, though. It's very inefficient to actually do aggregations because the transactional schemas, the OLTP schemas, are actually designed to do single inserts, single updates, single deletes. This is what they're very, very good at. But aggregating and summarizing the data is very inefficient. So we took a look at this and said, well, what can we do about it? And so we've built a part of the product we call direct data mapping. And what that does, it actually pre-builds a matrix of joins behind the scenes. So we understand what the fastest path is to get from any single data point to any other data point without having to calculate it on the fly, without having to work out what we're actually doing. We've pre-built this. It looks more like a graph schema behind the scenes. It's not quite, but the functionality is very similar to that. And this gives us incredible performance and makes it very efficient to actually analyze across the data sources. And the upshot of this is when we actually get to the analytics engine, we're reporting in sub-second to a few seconds for most of the questions that actually get answered. So it's very, very quick. Once we've done this, we actually bring the data into Incorta. As I said, the data loading is done in parallel, and we store this in Parquet format. Now, we chose Parquet for a few reasons. The first reason is we actually get very, very good compression ratios with this. So we're on something like about a 10x compression ratio. So 100 gigabytes of data is going to sit in a 10 gig platform. All of this just minimizes the footprint required for the service to actually run this. The second reason we chose it is because it's an open standard. We don't want to lock you into a proprietary format. So therefore, this is an open standard. It's your data. You can get access to it. So you can run your ML, your AI, your advanced analytics on these Parquet data files. And then even the output of that can then be fed into Incorta, and then that can be utilized by the business users as well. Within Incorta itself, we have what we call a data management suite as well. Here we have Spark actually built into the product. And what that gives us is the ability to be able to perform more advanced business logic and even AI, ML, advanced analytics capabilities as well. We have a notebook that's actually encapsulated, and through that we can actually develop routines in Python, in Scala, in R. We even have Spark SQL and PostgreSQL as well. We actually provide those capabilities all within there. So actually there's a lot of capabilities within the product for generating much more advanced business logic and, as I say, AI, ML, and advanced analytics as well. These can then be joined back into the main schema, and to all intents and purposes, they look like tables within Incorta. So once again, they can be queried, they can be provided as vocabulary to the business users, and they're able then to actually use the output from these very technical, very complex functions without even understanding what actually goes in behind them. In the analytics section, we actually have a memory optimized analytics engine. So actually we do have data in memory, but it's not all of the data. If you have 100 terabytes of data, we certainly don't try to put 100 terabytes of data into memory. We actually run a lot of analytics on the data to understand what are the questions that are being asked, what are the dashboards people are looking at, what are the business schemas, these this metadata view of the data that people are looking at. And from this, we work out what are the hottest attributes that people are looking at. What are the attributes that will actually provide most value if we put them into memory and we can answer most questions from. And then it's just that gets loaded into memory. So all of this, once again, is just making it much more efficient in the size and the scale of the platform to actually run this. We have our own visualization tool on the front of this, and it's much more simplistic than the Power BIs, the Tableaus, MicroStrategies, the clicks that are available on the market. And by design, these tools are very good at what they do and are very, very richly featured. And so rather than trying to get into a Me Too play and try to compete with those, we've taken a different view and said, actually, what we're going to do is simplify this. We're going to take a lot of these features out, but actually make it very easy just to get the answer to a question. And this is actually aimed squarely at the business users, to give them the ability to be able to ask a lot of their own questions and you know, be able to get their own answers instantly. Having said that, we do have a wrapper that we put over the front of the Incorta engine. It just looks like a database, so that things like Power BI and MicroStrategy and Tableau can actually connect directly in and get the scale and performance from the engine that you wouldn't be able to get without that. So that's the architecture as we stand. These are the blueprints that I talked about. Obviously, SAP and ECC are you know, very, very good sweet spots for Incorta, and we've done a number of projects based on this. So we have a lot of blueprints available across all of these and with NetSuite. And these are just the ERP based blueprints that we have. We have, you know, quite a number more beyond this. And you can see some of the sample outputs that we actually provide from this. All this is available on the Incorta website, so you can look at this afterwards. So now what we're going to do is we're going to run through quite a short demo just to give you an idea of some of the capabilities. And what we're going to have a look at is pretty typical out in the real world. We've got two different instances. We've got two different SAP instances. To add a little bit more complexity, one's ECC and one's S4HANA. What we want to do is actually integrate them together within Incorta, so we can actually have a combined view of it and see actually all the work that Incorta does behind the scenes. So then we'll be able to see the super user can actually access all the data, but we can still separate it out and see what's come from the individual systems. But then we can see the enterprise security that's built in as well. And we do security down to row level based on the access control. And so we'll actually see two users. One can access ECC only and the other can access S4 only as well. So we can see all the steps in the process that actually goes on there. So what I'm actually going to do here is I'm just going to stop sharing on that particular screen, and I'm going to bring up the other Incorta screen with the demo. There we go. And let's make this a little bit bigger so that we can see everything that's going on. And here we have our two SAP instances actually connected. So what we're looking at the moment, this is Incorta as we log in. And here's the contents page that everybody comes into. So obviously we can see the order fulfillment data here, but we've got some other use cases that we've actually set up as well. Being an administrator, I actually get to see quite a lot more than you'd normally see for a business user. But we'll actually have a look at what's behind some of these things as well. So we can actually understand what's actually going on behind the scenes. So the first thing we'll do is we'll actually have a look at the KPIs and the metrics. So if we go into the order fulfillment, this is the multi-source setup that we're actually looking at. So here we can see that we're looking at, we've already got a filter that we put in place. It's actually got the ECC and the S4 instance in here. And we can see all the values that we've actually set up. We've set some KPIs, and we've got our fill rates and online performance, etc., that we've actually identified from here. At this point, I can actually filter in and change some of these things. So actually, if I filter based on here, I can actually just change this, and we just look at the S4 data, and all of a sudden the values change. So we're just looking at the S4 instance. So if we look behind the scenes and see exactly what we've done to actually generate this, we'll start off with the data aspect. Now the data aspect, obviously we can see that we've got you know, a whole number of different SAP instances that we're actually that we've actually connected to. And if we have a look at the DS, and what we'll actually just do, we'll just have a look at the connection here. Obviously, we can share the connections as we've got, and Okay, so we can have a look at the connection, and what we actually can see is the fact that we're actually using BAPI functions to actually do the connections and actually to extract the data, and these are all the credentials that we use. But because we're actually using SAP adapter, then this is what's actually bringing in all of that information for us. But these are just setting up the pipeline. So we've got the pipelines to the different ECC and the S4 instances that we've actually got. So we can see the S4 down here. But it all comes to fruition when we actually start building the schema. So once again, if we look at the schema, we can see actually we've got our multi-source versions down here. And what we want to have a look at is the SD data that we've got. And if we just take any of these tables, we can have a look at one of the tables here, and we can see actually in here, we actually have two sources for the data. So these actually show us what's behind the scenes, and we're actually adding a source column in here to actually tell us what the source system is that the data's actually come from. So this enables us to actually identify each of the individual sources, and we can filter this based on the users using the data. And it's quite easy to add a further data source if we actually have a third ECC or another S4 instance, or even an EBS instance, we can actually add in it as well. So we can just add in the data source and do the merge on the column so that we know exactly what we're looking at. Once you've actually built this, then we actually start building a business schema. As I said before, when we start looking at the data, it becomes much too complex for a business user to actually understand what we're looking at. So we'll look at the sales distribution data here, which is where we were before. And obviously we've broken this down into more manageable areas. So we've got the orders, the order measures, and if we have a look at the order measures here, for example, we can see all the columns and we can see where the data's actually come from. And what we're actually doing is aggregating the data across the two systems. So we're bringing the data that's come from the ECC as well as from the S4 instance, and we're actually adding the two sources together to give us the values that we've actually got. So this is the way we're actually integrating the values all into a single place. As I say, when we actually build this, this will actually come out of the box when we actually have integrated units, even across EBS and SAP instances as well. So now if we come back to the content that we actually have a look at, as I say, we're now looking at the order fulfillment section, and we can see that we've got both instances here, and we can see the values that are here. As I said, we've swapped already, and we've seen that we can see just one of these as we actually go through. But what I can do as well is I can actually log out of this. So if I sign out of this particular user, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to sign back in. But I'm going to change the user I'm looking at. So rather than being this user, I'm going to go in as limited user 1. Sign in at this point. And now we can see the same dashboard that we had before, because it's actually been shared across them. But when I actually come to see this, I can see a completely different set of values, because I can only see the data here that relates to one of the instances. And if I come to filter, and I can filter it on the source system, you'll see that I actually only have the ECC data available to me. And if I log out from here as well, so actually if I change again and go back in, and we go to limited user 2 now, and once again, we've got the same data available to us, but now we're seeing the different values. And if we come to do our filter, what we'll actually see for the source system is the fact that we've only got the S4 data available to us. So this is actually showing us that we have the super user, and we can actually filter between what's available to us, but also we can build the row level security and the access control to just allow individual users to actually see the data from their own system. So this is actually quite a short demo. We've only got a limited amount of time available for this today. Obviously, please reach out to us if any of this actually looks interesting. We can do much more involved and much more in-depth demos for you and talk you through this. And now, actually, I'll hand back to to Richard to facilitate the fireside chat.
Thank you, guys. Really good and informative presentation. Just before we go into the fireside, I'm just noticing some of the questions that are coming through online here. And one, this is a real prevalent question, I think, for both our partnerships, and it should be answered kind of straight away. Before I go into the questions for both Gary and Martin, the question, guys, is does this help? Does the solution and the value propositions that we both have help with the vendor lock-in question? Because an SAP, an Oracle, a large organization, the way they've done extremely well in terms of the provision of their software is to so-called lock organizations into themselves. Martin, I'll come to you first. How would you reply to that question from a Spinnaker perspective?
Yeah, and I tried to allude to this in my two-pager, so obviously didn't do as good a job as I hoped. But it's fundamental to a big driver for clients coming our way. I mean, Oracle especially are very good at two things. They're good at writing pretty damn good software, but they're also good at tying up in knots contractually. And that contractual piece often creates a vendor lock-in, not just the compelling nature of requiring you to have obviously maintenance across your entire set. I won't get into the complexities of that now, but it often means extracting yourself from that is often an all or nothing approach, which means everything that you might have in your environment that's Oracle, certainly true as well for SAP, you have to switch it all off and move it on to third-party support. Sometimes there are ways of carving bits out. It depends on CSIs and order numbers and all that kind of stuff and common product sets, but often it's all or nothing. But once you've done that, then yes, absolutely, you're in a place where you've broken the lock-in that the vendor has around you, and you're now free to decide. Now that decision could be to take steps back to that vendor, but it will be in a much more richer way that you'll have. We find our clients who do go back, and a lot do because it's a life cycle when they come with us, that they go back in a much stronger position where they can negotiate because they now have a choice. They can choose if they want their Siebel to move to an alternative CRM, so like Sugar CRM or as an open source platform, or they could choose that they want to move their databases rather than relying now on Sybase or ECC. They can move to Postgres or MongoDB or whatever. So they have a lot more choice, and so it's the vendor then, the publisher, SAP or Oracle, has to be a lot keener in the negotiation for what they want to do. So short answer, yes. Long answer, something like what I gave you. Really long answer, come and talk to me.
Yeah, thanks, Martin. Really, really informative points. And Gary, from your experience, I know you've
exactly. I mean,
long time at these vendors.
This was one of the reasons we wanted to speak to Spinnaker in the first place, because we were finding that customers were getting locked in, and often they're paying for things that they're not even using. And we can elaborate on that later. But giving choice back to the customer is a very welcome byproduct of delivering analytics to the business user, which is what we're advocating right now as well.
Good, thank you, Gary. So there's no other questions I wanted to delve into on the floor. Just to get some perspective of the partnership that we're launching today. Gary, if I come to you, why did you initially reach out to Martin? What was the initial thoughts that you had in terms of a successful partnership going forward with the guys at Spinnaker?
Yeah, here's the thing. All of our customers generally go on a journey with us. And the net result of alleviating the burden of reporting from IT and delivering control back to the business user by default immediately creates an environment of operational efficiency. In our discussions with customers and prospects, we're constantly being asked, can we replace ETL? Or even specifically, can we replace HANA? We can do any of these things, but our priority is really to help the customer discover their own ways to operational efficiency, which incorporates the very piece that they're asking for. So thinking outside of the box, we identified that we needed a partner who could support and assist that strategy, and that partner is Spinnaker, and here we are.
Got it. Thank you, Gary. That's great stuff. And then just from Martin, just coming back to you from your perspective, from your experience and from your current deployments, where do you see the value and where do you see the future value in a joint partnership with Incorta?
Yeah, like I was saying, clients come to us often for a journey. It's you're not going to stay on your existing platform necessarily forever. I did refer earlier to clients who are still on 8i. Some of our best references, I can think of a SAP one off the top of my head, and I think we're putting a video on a website about it very soon, is actually no longer with us. And they joined us, loved the onboarding process, loved how we looked after them, but also really appreciated the way we helped them move back, in that case, to SAP. Now, to your point, what does Incorta give me? Why am I keen to be here on the same platform as you today? Well, it's clients like that and others. We just won a big deal earlier on this year with a big, large retailer in the UK. We're saving them over £5 million a year that they would have been paying to Oracle.
Wow.
But part of what they're doing, they see a long life cycle left on their database, but their EBS now, they're rolling off and they're moving to other platforms. I would have loved to be able to go to them and say, actually, okay, so your EBS, you're keeping where you are, but why move on to another platform? If you're moving somewhere else because you want greater insights on analytics, then look at a different alternative rather than having to go for that whole pain of migration and reinstatement. Is there a thin layer of capability that can be put across the top, across your whole estate? And in their case, they are a merger of multiple companies with different technologies. Something like Incorta could have really helped them out and helped them save even more money.
Yeah, so it's a really good point, Martin. Thank you for that. And I think from our experiences, I'm a great believer in the data that a company owns is their lifeblood, right? In terms of their customer interaction. So having data stores and having accessibility to that data is absolutely key. So leave the investments there, just leverage, have a leverage into new technology and adopt that from leveraging the existing things that they've built. Gary, just in terms of your ambitions for the partnership.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, look, as we come out of this current pandemic, customers are going to be looking for more for less. So there are going to be some vendors who are going to be labeled as offender vendors because they cannot and will not compromise on price. And in so many cases, they're forcing customers, like many in the audience, I'm sure, to take decisions on upgrading and moving and transforming way too early when they're not ready to do that in their own business life cycle. This partnership promotes the fact that customers can relax because we have them covered from the get-go on their current environment and all the way through their transformation phase, should they choose to take that path. From our perspective, our piece is to maximize operational efficiency and ROI around critical business analytics. And that we do that by often replacing draconian processes, which either just don't deliver for the business or sometimes aren't even used. And we see this a lot. And there's three of us on this call who are ex-SAP. We see a lot of customers and speak to a lot of customers, for example, who have HANA on the shelf and they don't even use it, but they've got huge maintenance bills that they're paying on an annual basis that they're leveraged to pay because they've got to support other things. This partnership breaks that whole scenario wide open. So therefore, I see the future of this partnership to help customers to stop spending money on not solving the problem. And we've got many cases where we've delivered rapid ROI to our customers, a combination of the money they save and the services and the functions they now enjoy in the hands of the right people who are driving the business forward.
Gary, Martin, Shaun, Justin, thank you very much for your participation today. I hope you felt this session was useful for you, and hopefully speak to you later in the future. Thank you, everybody.
Pleasure.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Cheers.